Well, hello friends. Welcome to day number 3 of our Fall in Love with Watercolor series. We have some really fun projects to do today and I'm excited to share them with you. I just wanted to quick overview what we did yesterday. We painted in our sketchbook to kind of practice some hearts. We also practiced some of our brush strokes and learning how our brushes work and how to work those brush strokes into different things, like in this case, kind of a rose or some leaves. We also did a color wheel with one of our stencils in the kit, which by the way, I love. And then we also did some color mixing to create like a uniform or a harmonized color palette. In this case, I mixed some shell pink into all of the different colors. So that's shell pink, and then I mixed it into several of these. I shouldn't say all. I have 12 colors on here, including 12 the shell pink. Then we used the leftovers from our mixing palette to paint this. And you can see this is the palette from the painting we did yesterday. It still has paint in it, and you can still use that paint. Then we did a little more practice. And then I created some cards from what we painted. So our first card was this one. I'm not going to lie to you. I spritzed this with gold paint and actually regretted it. I don't love it. It's all right. And maybe you guys like it. It just, I liked it better on its own. So it is what it is. But so it says sending you hugs and kisses. So I thought that was a cute card nonetheless. And then this is how the card turned out from my purple hearts. I just took my pen and drew straight lines down with stems and little leaves on here. Again, I'm not a big drawer. Is that a word? I'm not big into drawing, but I do like being able to do something very simple like this. I also showed you another color version of it. This is on a black card with some gold and gold in the heart flowers, but I just thought this was really fun. And so hopefully that inspires you. I will also maybe add, I just realized as I was opening my sketchbook that I told you I would finish this, and I will show you what the finished one looks like with all the colors done. But today, I would like to start out with a little practice. I've got this open page right over here, so I think I'm going to take this. And we're going to do one of my favorite exercises lately, and it's kind of an interesting one. But I'm going to take my flat watercolor brush and paint a bunch of rectangles. Now this exercise does take a little bit of patience, but it's a great way to warm up, and it's also really great to use leftover paint, as well as it's something to paint when you don't know what to paint. That is a common thing I hear from people, and so I thought we would start with this exercise. Okay, you're gonna laugh. I literally had to go into my bathroom because I filled the water container. I didn't bring it back to table. So we're gonna start. Now this is something you could for sure tape off your page and have nice clean borders, or you can just let it organically happen. Because it's in our sketchbook, it doesn't really matter so much, but I will show you a couple other versions that I've done of this, and they are perfect to turn into cards. So once again, I'm going to use that leftover paint I have in this mixing palette we used last night. By the way, this mixing palette, a couple of you purchased it. It's for sure worth the investment in my humble opinion, because it is such a great tool for mixing colors and having just dedicated little spots where the colors don't run together. This is why I had my husband design it for me, so I really love it. Another thing, when you're doing this, I'm going to do lots of different colors here, and I'm not drawing any lines because I think it's kind of fun to do this sort of just organically with whatever happens. But I'm doing rectangles and squares. I'm using the design of my brush to help me make these good looking shapes on here. And then as they come together, we'll worry about getting them lined up and whatnot. So right now I'm just kind of doing them randomly. Now, why would I not do them just boom, 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 all in order? Because I don't want the paint to run and bleed into each other. I'm not going to stress if they do a little bit, but overall, I don't want this to turn into just a big blobby mess. But you'll find it's actually pretty easy to fill in the gaps because, again, we're not worried about this being super precise. Now, if you're one of those really type A people, this might be tricky for you. But I think it's worth doing because at the end of the day, it does help you kind of develop a feeling for where your brush is going, the shapes that you're making, and the space that they're filling, all good things. Now, if you don't like the precision of doing this, meaning like, you know, I'm being relatively careful about the placement of this. I don't want things, you know, touching too much. If that bothers you, you can go back to one of our other ones. I would recommend doing like the circles. Circles are always a good idea. I've never met a circle painting I didn't like, so that's always a good one to come back to. And you can also see at this point, these colors are pretty watery. We have used a multitude of different colors of paint and reusing the paint on here. Actually, that's what I was trying to say. We've reused the paint from this palette a multiples of times, meaning we've added quite a bit of water to it. So what's left is not a ton of pigment at this point. But we can recreate any colors we need to because we kind of know what they are. Or we can even bring in the straight pigment if you wanted a darker version, because you can see these are all very, very pastel and muted colors because, again, we muted them once by mixing them with the shell pink, and then we muted them again by mixing a fair amount of water in them at this point because we've used them for a couple different things at this point. Anyway, but I love the look of this. Now, the fun thing too is at the end, if you've got just some open spots on your page, what you can do is fill them in with gold because that's always fun as well. But I find this to be just a nice, relaxing process. And I do like when the kind of the blocks touch, meaning there's no space between them. You can absolutely paint them with a little white line between each shape. And if you've been in my events before, my retreats, we have done that kind of painting. But this is just another version of it. I like this because it's more of a warm-up practice. And it's a great way to use up that paint. It also is great for water control. So let's take a look at some of these that have dried. This one dried pretty nicely. This one's got a big old bloom in it, and I just stuck my finger in it, but that means I had too much water in my brush. Right here, I can see there's too much water. So this is just helping me figure out and understand what the right amount of water is. And spoiler alert, right here, what I've got is too much. So if I want to, I can get rid of some of it by just thirsty brushing out the excess, and then it's going to look nice. Or I can leave these little blooms that happen in there because that's kind of a cool look too. It's all a matter of personal preference and what you're trying to get out of it. If you're just trying to paint a little, don't worry about it so much. If you're like, okay, I want to make sure that all of these rectangles have no blooms in them, then you definitely are going to want to make sure you've got the right amount of water. And in case you're not even sure what the right amount of water is, I promise you this is something that comes with time and practice. So if you're new to watercoloring and you're like, I don't even know what she's talking about, just keep painting. It'll come to you as you go. And then I also find it interesting to see how much I can paint before I have to reload my brush with more pigment or more water. And I also love seeing all those different colors that I can get out of this exercise because it's really fun. And depending on how well you rinse your brush, sometimes I don't even rinse my brush. I just go in and grab some more paint. When I'm using up like leftovers here, I wouldn't want to do that to like contaminate my actual paint palette. But if I'm just pulling up leftover paint colors, I think it's fun to just not rinse your brush and see what colors you end up with as you go. And that can be kind of fun too. All right, so as I keep building in and filling in these different spaces on here, you can see I get kind of a neat pattern. It's very watery, very light, subtle, but pretty. And it's the perfect backdrop for painting in or making a card out of something like this. And just all you have to add to it is a sentiment or maybe a die cut shape over the top, you know, like a branchy, leafy type thing. We have lots of that in our offering historically and currently. So look into your stash, see what you've got. Now, most of these I'm doing a horizontal brush stroke, but sometimes you are almost forced to do a vertical, and this little spot is one of them. And then I've kind of got this weird section down here that is sort of like what's left over. So I'm going to kind of outline this, and that helps me stay in the space that I want. And then I'm going to go up and down so that this is going to stay. And you can see I'm overlapping that one a little bit just to clean up the look. That's fine. I'm going to rinse my brush to try and get a different color here. Pick up this. I think that was vermilion originally. Pull my hair out. That was my hair, not even my dog's. I always joke about my dogs shedding, but sometimes I do too. All right, I'm going to paint this one like so. Trying to get all the way up. I'm trying not to leave white space, but if you do, don't worry, it's fine. And then I've got this one little spot right there, and I think I'm going to do gold in that, just because I think it would be kind of interesting for that to be gold. And of course, I forgot to activate this, so we're going to take just a second. And whenever I do gold like this, when I activate it, and I only need a teeny bit. I've got a ton in my brush already. I'm going to scrape that brush off and look at all that paint that went right back in there. And that way I'm not wasting a ton of paint. But I can see that's not very opaque, so I'm going to come back and hit her again. I think she's not quite activated yet. Okay, there, that looks much better. So I think it's kind of fun just that I have that one little section. Now, granted, these still need to dry a little bit. You could also paint over some sections and add gold in a couple areas if you wanted. Like maybe I will do that right here. Just gonna paint over that spot. And since I did 2, I should probably just do 3. And I'm gonna paint over this spot as well, and I'm gonna call that good. Okay, so just adding a fun touch to your painting. You can, of course, do this multiple times with different results every single time, because the shapes are just so fun and they just happen as you go. Let me show you a couple other ones that I have done with this. I'll turn at least one of these into a card. This is one I did a long time ago, or I shouldn't say a long time ago, but this was a while back. I really loved the vibrant colors that came. These are straight from your palette, the Fall in Love with Watercolor palette, so that was kind of fun. This one has some of more of the other end of the palette with the purples and the bluish violet colors, so that is another fun one. This is one that I could frame in my frame or another frame. This one I would probably turn into a card, but you could kind of do whatever you want. What I love about these overall is they kind of look like a patchwork quilt, like a irregular patchwork quilt. I don't know if there's a name for that or not. I'm not a quilter, but obviously I recognize the look. I think I might have some more in here that I can share with you as well. I believe I did this after, oh, here's another good one. This is in my practice sketchbook for this event. Love, love, love. Love these colors. So this is quinacridone red, vermilion, and shell pink, and then various amounts of water of each of those colors. So some of them are full strength, some of them, oh, and naphtha red, sorry. So they're very variations of how, much pigment is in my brush at the time. And so that was kind of a fun one. And I think there might be one more in here. Let me check. I feel like it. Oh, another option for you, if this just makes your head spin trying to just randomly paint these rectangles and have it look like something at the end, that's okay. I understand that. You can take your ruler and draw lines and then paint just regular size squares. Okay. That will work for this type of activity too. It's a little bit less organic, though you could go randomly all over the place and do it. This is just another similar but different version of this type of exercise. And I feel like there's one more. Let me see if I can find it. But as you can tell, it's something I do somewhat regularly and really love how it comes out. I guess I don't have another one. I thought I did, but you get the idea. Okay, so give this a try. It's a great way to warm up your brush and get your feeling for how much water, how much pigment, how much your brush stroke will do. And then we can start painting. Hello, friends. Wanted to take a minute and show you this bulletin board. This is just a magnetic whiteboard that I got, I don't know, probably from Target or something. And I have this right outside my office. It's in the hallway, but it showcases some of my favorite paintings. And I just wanted to show it to you. So we did this technique last night. This one is done on a bigger piece of paper, so the flowers are a bit bigger. This, by the way, is your palette of colors, kind of swatched in a bigger swatch. This is something I did probably a year ago, but love the look of it, and it's just a bigger version of what we've been doing. This is like this, but one big one that just kept going around and around and around. This is actually something we made in our Advent calendar this past winter, which you can actually still get the online only version of that if you're interested, because we made some really cool stuff. This is the Watercolor Week palette, or the other palette that you can get. And then just some other paintings that I've done. Also this one, this one makes me giggle. This one was done by Shelly as a joke, but it makes my heart happy, so I keep showing it. Anyway, I just wanted to show you some of the things that I have hanging up, and I changed these out a little bit here and there and thought you might like seeing them. Okay, this I thought you might find funny. So this is my living room, family room, whatever. And we have a table set up here for all the paint palette filling that we've been doing. And you can see there's paint everywhere. But what I really wanted to show you is this. So this is our makeshift paint cave. And these are the most recent rack of paint palettes that we have filled. And I have this big, this is like a heating fan. So it's putting out dry, warm air to try and get the palettes dried faster so that we can send them to you. This paint color right here is what's giving me trouble. This is the Cobalt Violet Deep, and it's a really, it's kind of a weird paint. When it comes out of the tube, it's really, it reminds me of honey, and I've had a little trouble with it, and it takes far longer than all of the other colors to dry, and this is actually holding up sending paint palettes right now. So my husband decided this would be a good idea. It's helping, but it's still a pain. But anyway, I thought I would show you this and how I can watch TV while I fill my palettes full of paint. And you can see this is my big palette right here that I squeezed lots of paint in. And I giggle about this because I've like literally like popped out the paint. Once it's dry, you can actually remove it relatively easily, and rearranged this palette quite a few times as I've been working on developing it, but I thought you'd find that funny. Another thing I thought you might find interesting is when you get tubes of paint. This is a really big tube of paint. Most tubes are more like, oops, this size, quite a bit smaller. And when you get these tubes, once you start squeezing the paint out, you can see like this one is partially squeezed. I have this crimper, and I don't think I can do this with one hand, but I'll show you. You'll get the idea because we used to have a paper crimper. But this is a tube crimper, and if you are buying tubes of paint, I do actually recommend having this tool because you can get a ton more paint out of your tubes when you have it. So the idea is you hold it and then twist it, and then it pushes all the paint up to, oh, sorry, you can't see my finger pointing. It pushes all the paint up to the top of the tube. Anyway, those are some behind the scenes things that I thought you might find interesting and kind of fun. So there you go. All right, so next up, we are going to work on our next official card, which is card number 4 in your packet. You will have a half a sheet of Berry Burst and a piece of basic white to put on the inside for your card. I mentioned that because I want you to keep in mind the color so that when you choose colors for this next one, you will have something that will match your card. Now you're going to want to take a piece of your this is from my bulk watercolor paper pack, and I want to cut this with my trimmer. So let me just bring this in to 3.5. Let's see, actually, what did I have in my notes? Oh, I don't think I really had notes. Well, I'm going to cut this sheet in half. So at 3.5, and then we'll likely cut this down a little bit more. But we'll kind of see. Maybe I'll do it in a couple of different ways, and you can decide which one you like the best. I'm going to bring in my round brush for this activity, and we want, like I said, to choose some colors in our palette that are going to coordinate with that magenta colored or berry burst colored paper. I just dripped, so let's kind of soak that up. I'm going to use this while that drip dries. Okay, so colors in my palette that are going to be similar to this, and here's where your swatching is so handy. Oh, magenta rose is like dead on. This cobalt violet light hue is also going to work, and then I think our mineral violet is also going to look nice, as is the Theo Indigo violet. So I've got several choices of colors that I can use with this, and then any colors that I think are going to look nice with this, like maybe that cobalt or even my peacock green. So that helps me choose colors for this next activity. And actually, as long as we're doing this, let's give it a shot in our sketchbook first before we do it on our actual project. Sorry, I meant to do that before. So what we want to do are kind of just some color swishes, for lack of a better description of them. So I'm picking up my paint. I'm going to mix it here on my palette. You can, I can use I was going to say, where's my dish? But I have it right here. So I'm going to mix this up. And then I'm going to literally just do some swooshes going down the side. So I'm using my brush not on its tip, but on its side. Okay, and then I'm just going to literally drag my brush across and get these kind of organic looking shapes, meaning they're not real specific. They're not planned per se. They're just kind of some fun shapes. I can even drop in some darker color along the top of that. It'll blend out a little bit. And kind of just do that. I'm gonna rinse my brush. Now, if I give this some time to dry, nothing will blend. If I don't give it time to dry, the next layer of these swooshes that I do are going to kind of blend in, and they might blend more or less than I want, but let's just see what happens. So there's one. I think I'm going to come back in and get a little darker color. This is my mineral violet. Okay, so that's a little darker, kind of doing that. And I'm just sort of crisscrossing these shapes, and maybe a little bit right there. All right, and that's just creating kind of a cool background. So there's not a ton of mixing. Luckily, it was drying relatively quickly on this paper, which is great. Let's try it again, maybe with a slightly different mix of colors, and see if there's one we like over another. And while this dries, doing the next one is always a good idea, because when we're done with this one, the first one will be dry and we can come back and add some gold accents, because gold is always a good idea. All right, now that's still wet, so I'm putting this on because I definitely want it to bleed. And you can see it definitely did. But that means I'm also kind of switching back and forth between colors, so I'm not doing them immediately, one after the other. So that just means I'm kind of rinsing and changing colors a little bit more. All right, I'm going to skip over. I'm going to work a little quicker so that I can very guarantee some mixing will happen. And again, I'm using a little different colors here, and I like the look. I can even add some water if I wanted, or whatever. All right, now this one is mostly dry, which means I can come back in with some gold, because I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I think gold is always a good idea. All right, so luckily we have this kind of activated a little bit already from our previous practice. And if I throw some gold in there, oh my gosh, it's magic. Now notice how this swipe looks versus this one, because that was still wet. It bled and spread out. This one is holding its shape. So that's the difference between a dry area that you're painting on and a wet area. So we call that wet on wet when it's spreads like that, or wet on dry would be this one where it was already dry so it doesn't spread. I'm just going to kind of keep doing that on here a little bit. This one I know is going to be wet and it'll spread, and it's kind of cool. Not going to lie, this one down here isn't going to spread as much because it's dried. But, oh, such cool effects, right? All right, let's do this. Now that we've practiced a little bit, maybe I'll write down the colors, because I think that's always good to keep track of. This was magenta rose and mineral violet. This one is cobalt violet, V-I-O-L-E-T, light hue, and mineral violet. I think it's pretty obvious we have gold in there as well. Okay, so now that we've got that done, and I'm still waiting for this sheet to dry, so I haven't moved over my sketchbook all the way. Okay, so let's give that a shot on our actual watercolor paper for making this into a card. Just in planning, I want to leave a little space at the bottom so I can stamp a sentiment. So just leave, like a good 1/2 inch, give or take, at the bottom. All right, I loved the colors we did. I think I'm actually going to combine them into 3 colors. So that's magenta rose, the mineral violet, and the cobalt violet light hue. Okay, so start off with our magenta. Keep in mind too that this paper that we're using is likely going to stay wet a little bit longer than our sketchbook paper, because it's a little different type of paper. As I mentioned last night, I am going to have, if you've got the PDF version of this, I've got a video for you coming that's going to kind of talk a lot about the differences in papers. There's a pretty big difference in paper, as well as different types of brushes and what kind of brushes do you want for what types of things, and also a little bit more about paint, just to help you understand. Okay, so ooh, we've got that. By the way, I think that Cobalt Violet Light Hue looks a lot like Petunia Pop, especially when you water it down a bit. Okay, so look at how fun that is. Definitely liking this. Love the vibrancy of these colors as well. Let's pull in that gold and see what we can do here. And I'm going to kind of end up with a mixture of both it spreading and holding its shape. So over here where it's dry, it'll hold its shape. And then as I get over to this edge, it's going to spread out like that. So that's kind of fun. Same thing there. Now you can pick up the pigment in your brush. So you might want to rinse it a little bit. So you do get the definite gold color because you don't want gold mixed with color. And that looks pretty cool. So we're going to let this sit. I do see that there's kind of a lot of liquid right here, like it's almost a bead of liquid. So I'm going to soak this up with my thirsty brush, get rid of it on my paper towel. I don't know if you can see the paper towel. It might be out of the view. Dry it off, soak up some more, and that will keep this from kind of drying with a big ugly bloom. All right, we're going to let that one sit. Let's do another one. This is not going to be for our card. It'll just be for fun, and I want to try some completely different colors. So in this one, I'm going to start probably with some vermilion because I love a nice bright orange, almost as much as I like a nice bright Coastal Cabana. And so I'm just doing little swooshes for lack of a better description. I think Opus might be a good color. That's our nice, really hot pink. And put that in there. And then another color I really like with this is Permanent Rose, but watered kind of down a lot. So I think I'll bring my mixing palette in here, put some Permanent Rose in this well, and then I'm going to bring in 2 or 3 brushfuls of water. So it's kind of watered down a bit. And then I'm going to just go over the edge here. Oh, it's not watered down enough. I want more water in there. And this is just personal preference. There we go. I want it to look, you know, substantially different than the colors that are on there. And that worked all right. Okay, now this one I'm going to allow to dry completely before I put any gold on it, just to change up the look a little bit. So I'll set that aside over here. Let's look at how this one's doing. It's still pretty wet, so we might need to encourage the process with our heat tool. And as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing a couple things that I might want to change. One, I want the gold to be a little more vibrant and intense. So if we allow things to dry, then I can paint over the top and the gold will hold its goldness. It won't disperse into the other colors. And then also right here, I want that to be a little bit more true to the color. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my Mineral Violet and just kind of go over that swoosh a little bit like that so it maintains its color. Same with this one. And I am going to go over the whole thing. Otherwise you can end up with some weird lines. All right, we'll let those go and then we'll finish our heating and drying. Maybe this is what I need to do to my palettes to help get them to dry faster. I don't know where I will include in here some behind the scenes video, and I don't know if it's before this or if it'll end up being after this, but there's some behind the scenes about our paint palettes and some other things in my in the creativity cave that I share with you. Okay, so now these are dry, mostly dry. I'm going to pick up some of that gold again. And I want this to be a little bit more solid gold. So I'm kind of going over it like that. Same, this one especially, because this one really dispersed. And just kind of line that up. Still keeping it, you know, an organic swoosh, but just a little more intense with the gold. And I do like the look of this one. So we'll set that aside. Let's see how this one's coming along. Still drying a little bit. Let's help it along. Encouragement, that's all this is. These colors down here really kind of bled together, so I might help separate them out with another brush stroke or two. And then we'll add our gold over the top once this is dry. So I've got gold in my brush right now, so I think what I'm going to do is do a couple swaths, whatever you want to call that, up here, maybe another one right here. I think I need some more water so this will flow a little bit better. There we go. And then down here, I want to put one down here, but I also want another swath of color. We'll do that and maybe that, just to kind of get a little bit more color on here. And what I love about this is there's not really a right or a wrong to this process. It just is happening. All right, I'm going to take some more of my opus and just draw in a nice vibrant line there and there. And maybe even one more bright vermilion stripe as well. Like that. Ooh, so pretty. Love how these came out. All right, so these, well, this one is going to go in with our magenta, or I'm sorry, our melon mambo. That's why I wanted to say magenta, because it starts with an M. Melon, no, it's not even melon mambo. It's berry burst. What am I even saying? Goodness gracious. Sorry, you guys. Berry burst cardstock. That's when it's going to go with this. I will turn this into a card and show this one to you during tomorrow's live. Okay, so that was a really fun exercise. I will turn this into a card as well and share with you the results of this one. All right, guys, the next lesson for today is going to be taking this really fun heart stencil. I want to just tell you a little about this stencil. So I wanted my husband to create a heart stencil that we could use because I know some of you struggle with drawing hearts. You may have picked up, love to draw hearts. So I thought it would be fun to play with this stencil. And we designed it so that it would fit on a card front, but you could also do lots of other different things with it. So I drew some hearts with my paintbrush, and this is what I came up with. This one was my favorite, so he turned this one into your stencil. It's obviously a different size, but that is where this heart actually came from. So I thought that would be kind of fun to share with you. I love this stencil. It's so much fun to play with. So whenever I use a stencil, what I like to do is place it on my sketchbook. It helps if you tape it or clip it in place so that if you move it, it's or if you don't have to hold your hand so hard with it. A couple tips on this one. I like to not go around the bottom of the heart. So I'm going to go along the side and around and along the side and around, but I'm actually not going to go around the point because it makes kind of a weird dip. I'll show you when we pull the stencil off. Then what I'm going to do is trace the different sections of this lightly with my pencil. I'm not pressing very hard, but I do want to hold to the design. Okay. And what I love about stencils, and I have actually developed a whole bunch of stencils, you can shop for them in my stencil store. I will link it in the description of this video. I have a whole bunch of stencils, and what I love about them is they are perfect for coming up with ways or things to paint when you're not sure what you want to paint. Also, I gotta flip this around. Nope, it's okay. Sorry. So stencils are great for determining or for using to paint something when you just aren't sure what you want to paint, but you want to paint and you don't know what to do, and oops. And you do a bad job of tracing them. Anyway, I have a whole bunch of different designs, and I feel like this might actually not be the correct one that I'm using because we did a few modifications on it, and I think I'm using the wrong one, but you'll get the idea. It's the concept that is all that matters here. Okay, so I think I've got them. Oh, no, I'm missing one section. So I like to peek before I remove the stencil entirely. And now I think we're good. Okay, so there we go. So now what I'm going to do is come up with something to paint in each of these sections. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It literally can be just painting the colors down the row of my stencil. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, I'm going to paint. I don't think I've painted with my other palette yet, so I'm going to do that one. And then I have some samples with the Fall in Love with Watercolor palette. That way you can see both, depending on which palette you have or which colors you might enjoy. All right, I'm going to go with the bold colors because I'm kind of feeling bold and sassy today. Does that make you giggle? It makes me giggle. All right, let's start. Now, painting with stencils is a great activity because you can get a definite feel for what the right amount of water is or practice with it. So when I paint, and if I have a bead or a puddle of water anywhere in my section, I know I've got too much water on my brush, and then I can get rid of some of it. If I am seeing my brush stroke lines and they're kind of scratchy looking, that means I don't have enough water in my brush. So I'm definitely going to want to get some more. I'm also going to use the lid of this palette to mix my colors a little bit, since these are not the colors of my plate over here. Or I guess I could pull out another. I've got another palette for mixing, but I kind of like mixing my colors by kind of going, oops, one into the other. I went a little crazy here. Now, I did not actually do that on purpose, going outside the lines, but if you did, we've got some fun ways to fix that at the end, so don't stress about it. Also, keep in mind that I am doing this in my sketchbook, and my sketchbook is where I kind of practice and learn and get a feel for things before I do it for real, maybe on a project that will ultimately be turned into a card or a frameable item, something I want to hang up. And so just keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm also using my larger of my two brushes, and if you're struggling to keep inside the lines, switch down a size. Go to the smaller of your brushes, and you might find that works well. All right, moving on. So I'm just mixing in one color with the other. That's feels like a lot of water. So, and sometimes I like to put my paper towel over my work surface so that any accidental drips can easily be fixed. Or I can just simply cover up my space so I don't have any issues. One thing about, and I think I've said earlier that I have a whole video coming out about brushes, but one thing I don't like about these particular brushes is they are not designed to last a long time. The bristles are, as you can see, just literally plastic. So, oh, and I missed a section right here. We'll just make it happen. They're not designed to last a long time, so they are definitely not my first choice of brush. However, that being said, they do work decent. They're not horrible. I would say when it comes to supplies, the most important supply is paper. It makes a bigger difference than paint or brushes or anything else. Definitely paper. But it also kind of depends on what you're doing. Again, I'll elaborate on all of those in that extra video that I mentioned. And that video, by the way, is going to be included in the PDF. If you are getting a box or if you have registered for the PDF, you'll get it. And then we'll also talk about more supplies during the 30-day challenge, which is also part of the PDF or the box of supplies. So if you haven't ordered your box, I am getting down there. I think I might only have about 6 left. And I think I only have one watercolor happy course supply box left. And that was something we talked about during day 2. Okay, so we'll keep going with that. Do you like my shameless plugs? Speaking of shameless plugs, this one's going to be even more shameless. I also have, if you have been enjoying this event, I also have something called Paint with Dina and Stencil Club. Stencil Club is something that is going to send to your door each month a new stencil design. Those stencils are not currently in my stencil store. You cannot get a Stencil Club stencil unless you're in Stencil Club. If you join Stencil Club and want any of the old stencils, you can get those. But Stencil Club comes with at least one, but I'll be honest, there's rarely only one video for the Stencil Club. And I show you how to use the stencil. And I have an entire, maybe tomorrow during our live, I will talk more about Stencil Club. But since I'm just sitting here painting, I will talk about it. And each month we do videos with it, different techniques, color mixing techniques, sometimes texture techniques, sometimes just design types of techniques. Oftentimes looking at your stencil may be differently than the obvious way you might use it. But regardless, it is a really fun, it's a really fun club to be a part of. And Stencil Club includes Paint with Dina, which is another thing I do. Paint with Dina is you get videos each month, just kind of continuing on your painting practice. We do skill building videos. We also do project videos, and I will talk a little bit more about that as well. But it's kind of a fun way to continue your watercolor practice. And there's new content each month, but it's not like tons. It's it's only $5, or actually it's $7, $7 a month. And we definitely learn new things, create projects. Some are cards, some are not cards, a lot of techniques, different things. You can ask me questions, or like, how do you paint this? Or how do these kind of brushes work? Or what are these for? So things like that, which is fun. Okay, I'm going to leave this one empty. And I bet you can probably guess what I'm going to do with it, but it's still fun to talk about. Okay, I'm going to mix some of my bright, I think in this one it's bright rose or violet or bright something, bright pink, I don't know, bright rose, I think. Anyway, I'm going to mix in some, I think that is cobalt blue. And then we'll end up with a little purple. Anyway, this stencil is just been a favorite of mine, and we're going to use it in a bunch of different ways. Actually, I'm very excited. I think most of tomorrow is going to be about how to use this stencil. Oh, and I just dripped a drip. Okay. Dripped a drip. Such a bummer. So let me explain to you what just happened, because this happens to me somewhat regularly, and I keep trying to prevent it from happening, but I dipped my brush probably too deep into the water. So that meant water got up here. And then what happens is when I'm working this way, the water drips down my brush because I can feel it on my fingers. It's wet. And then it eventually ends up going bloop on your paper. There is, well, I guess there is water in this, in the tube of this, but I don't believe that's actually where it came from. I think it came from the drip. So at any rate, it happens, and it is what it is. Okay, now I've got this color, and I'm not sure if I like it, so I'm going to test it over here. Nope, don't like it. Glad I tested it. I mixed a little bit of the cobalt green into this mixture, and it just wasn't pretty. So, all right, let's continue with our cobalt. The order of these paints isn't probably exactly the way I would like them to be. It's just how they kind of ended up. And then for keeping them similar for people, I just sort of left it that way. All right. Oh, okay. We skipped one. I want to go over here because I want to keep this color kind of transitioning the same. And again, if your sections are a little different than mine, I gotta see where my other stencil is. If this is the old one, I think it might be. Look. Oh yes, it is the old one. It's a bit different. So yours is gonna be a little different than mine. But I'm gonna explain to you why that is. And the answer is right there and right there. There's these teeny little spots. So we changed the direction of them. And then also, well, long story, we changed it to make it work better for you. And it did. I just grabbed the wrong one. I thought I had thrown this out. Actually, I'm going to throw it out right now. So, so I know. Don't worry. You did not get one of those because they never got produced beyond my test ones. So it's okay. But it's interesting. I do alter these stencils a bit to make sure they work the best that they can before we send them to you. And man, we've had some good stencils. Stencil Club has run for just over a year, started in January 2025, and it's been a lot of fun. Now, the cool thing is you have access to all the old content. So you can see all of the things we've done throughout this past year. And if there's any of those stencils that you do like, you can order them, but you have to be in Stencil Club to get them. Ooh. Also, Stencil Club members can enjoy regular stencils for the buy 3 get 1 free offer, which is a great discount. And then what we do is when you place an order, we'll ship it with your next Stencil Club stencil. and stencils are getting ready to ship. Like they'll probably go out in the next day or so. So if you're interested in Stencil Club, it's a great time to join. I will have a link for that in the description of this video. And again, Stencil Club includes Paint with Dina. Stencil Club is $20 a month. Paint with Dina is $7 a month. And you have access to all the content that's already on there. And there's a full year's worth and more added each month. So it's pretty awesome. And we also have a special Facebook group so you can share and see other people's projects. It's really inspiring, and it makes me, when I see people post, it makes me want to paint. So I think that is also really nice. Okay, ooh, let's mix the two of these up. And then I think I'm going to leave this one blank as well. So I've got that one, and maybe I'll do that one. I just want 3 on here that aren't painted. You'll see. Okay. Let's get my cobalt green. Oh, this is my fave. She's just like Coastal Cabana. Oh, and I just stuck my hand right on in there. All right. Oh, that was the one I wasn't going to paint, and here we are painting it. Oh, well. It's so much easier to remember what you're painting when you're not in a video. I just got to tell you. Okay. Kind of running out of colors here. Let's see. Oh, I can add some yellow to my green. We'll leave that one blank. Do this one with a little more water. My gosh, was this the one I said I was going to leave blank and I just painted over it? Ugh. The struggle is real. Okay. Clean my brush off for real. Do my green, and we're going to add yellow to this. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's see. That's a very yellow green. But it still works. And then a little more green to that yellow green. So it's not quite so newborn baby poo. It's kind of like Darling Duckling meets Summer Starfish meets Wild Wheat. Do you remember that color? That's from several years ago now. Okay. A little water to kind of water that out. And then we've got this one right here. So this one, and maybe this one I will paint with gold paint. Okay, and that will be this one. I will show you the final version later, but to get you a little bit more, to give you a little more inspiration, let me show you some more of these paintings. So here is one that I did. This is with your Fall in Love with Watercolor, and then I painted the center of this. I painted it really wet and then kind of dropped in colors, including gold, so I thought that was kind of fun. Another one is this one right here. This one I painted all different colors, and then I just painted a gold line over the line of the heart. So I thought that was kind of cool. I've got more, but I'm going to hold off sharing those until we do our next video tomorrow. So there you go. All right, I'm going to wrap that up for today. Like I said, I will paint these in and then I'll show you the final reveal. The reason I'm hesitating is because I don't want to stick my hand in the wet paint, because I've already done that a couple times. So looking forward to seeing you tomorrow evening. I think our live is at 5 p.m. Central. Check the schedule for the final details. Otherwise, have a great day. I love seeing everything you're sharing in the Facebook group. Keep doing that because it's so fun. If you haven't gotten registered for this, don't forget I will be doing some drawings. I think tomorrow will be the first drawing. And then I will also, to get entered in the drawing for prizes, all you need to do is be registered for any of the versions of this event, including the free version, the PDF version, or the box of supply version. And then, of course, there's links to the other things that I mentioned in today's video in the description of this one. Thank you guys so much for being here today. We will see you tomorrow night and have fun painting. Bye, guys.